Hello guys, welcome to Inno-tech CSS 3 crash course, and in this video we are going to be going over the introduction to CSS. So we are going to be constructing our CSS files and linking up our CSS file to our HTML file. So our advice, if you are going through this course and you don't still know HTML, then a card should be posted on the top right of your screen that will lead you to our HTML playlist. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive right in. Now, what is CSS? CSS is short for Cascading Style Sheet, and it is a style sheet language that is used for describing presentation of a document written in a markup language such as HTML, XML, and others. So basically, we are going to be using CSS to style our HTML web pages. Okay, yeah. So let's just dive right in into the video. Okay guys, so let's dive right in. Now the first thing you want to do is to create a folder where you're going to be saving all your documents in, and I'm just going to call it CSS. Yeah, let's just call it CSS. That's fine. And I'm going to be using a code editor called Visual Studio Code. If you wish to download that, then you can get that at code.visualstudio.com. Again, if you are new to the channel and you haven't gone through the HTML videos, which clearly explains how to use Visual Studio Code, then again, a card will be posted up here to our first HTML video that explains the use of Visual Studio Code. Okay, so let me open Visual Studio Code and open my folder, the folder I created called CSS. So open folder, and okay, this is the folder. Save all. Okay, so I am in my folder CSS, and I'm just going to create a file called index.html. Okay, and I'm going to call another file. I'm going to create another file which is going to be my CSS file. I'm just going to call that style.css. Okay, so I have my index.html and my CSS file called style.css. Now I want to link my index.html to my style sheet CSS, right? So to do that, I'll first of all need an index or sorry, an HTML file to link it up with. So I'm just going to randomly create one. Again, as I've said, if you don't know much about HTML, you can also always get that in the link in the description below. So I'm just going to call this my style. Okay, so not much. I'm just going to give this an h1 tag. Okay, and my web page. Okay, so in my web page, I'm just going to have a paragraph tag with some dummy text in. Let me wrap this. Okay, so I have this file, and I want to link this file to my style.css. So I simply use the link tag in the head. Okay, and okay, so automatically it has the relation, and the relation is style sheet, and the reference should be style.css. Okay, and yeah, and the type, which is not really necessary, is text slash css. Okay, and I should save this, and I'm going to open my web browser. Okay, I'm going to open my web browser. Open. Let me just close this. Okay, so anyways, it's fine here. I'm going to copy the path for this index.html, paste it in here so we can see our index.html. Okay, so as you can clearly see, you have web page. Let me just close this so you can see this thing better. Okay, so okay, my styles good. So you see your title up here, my styles, and you see your web page down here. Okay, now we need to test that our style sheet is actually linked up with our um HTML document. So I'm basically just going to give my web page a background color. Again, well, we are going to go over all these CSS properties, but I'm going to use a very straightforward property to actually test that our style sheet is connected to our HTML document. So I'm just going to give the body a background color of so I'm just going to give the background color of, let's say, blue. Okay, and so I'll save this document and refresh my page, and good. So you see this works, right? You realize that when I styled my or when I gave a small property to the body element, which is a background color of blue, then my web page had a background color of blue, meaning my style sheet is connected or is linked to my index.html. Okay, so now let's talk a bit more on how to style particular elements in CSS. So let me pause the video here. Uh, you can get back into your workspace and try this out. And yeah, we are going to continue the video after you've done that right now. Okay. Okay, guys. So to style maybe your HTML web page, you actually need to specify like the contents that you actually want to style. So let's say I have my header one, right, and I want to style just that header one. Then I need a way to actually use CSS to target just that header one. Okay, and there are different the things that we use to target those tags or those particular elements in your HTML. We call them selectors. Okay, so we have different types of selectors. We have element selectors, as you're going to be seeing. So basically element selectors are like your inline elements or your block elements, or most of the times the block elements. You're going to see how we are going to style those block elements. You have ID selectors, and these ID selectors, we'll talk a bit more on them when we dive in. And you also have what we call class selectors. Again, this will be elaborated more on the ID and the class selectors in our HTML um, crash course. Again, the card should be posted up here. Okay, so without waste of time, let's dive right in and let's see how we use these different selectors. Okay. Okay, so now about selectors. I have a document here that we worked on in our HTML course. I just copied the HTML file and I pasted it here. So again, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Check in the description. You should see a link to the playlist where we did all this marvelous work. Okay, so without waste of time, let's dive right into selectors. So I'm going to start off with the first selector we saw, which is called the element selector. Now, in our HTML videos, that again is in the playlist, you realize that we have different types of elements, right? We have block elements and inline elements. For example, your H2 tag, a block element, your strong tag, inline element, right? H1 tag, block element, right? So to style this, we basically use these tags, right? Like in the I think a few minutes ago, we did talk on how to test that your style sheet is actually connected to your HTML document by using body and some curly braces, and we had background we had background and we gave it blue. Okay, now this body is actually helping us target the body element or the body tag, right? So this body is basically targeting this in our HTML document and styling that entire part, right? So from where the body tag starts till where it ends, right? Till where it ends, you actually realize that um this body that I have set here is actually targeting that particular environment, which is basically your entire page. Now again, if I save this and I refresh, you realize that the background becomes blue. But let's say I don't want this, right? Let's say I simply want to just make, okay, so let me refresh this. So let's say I simply want to give this h1 tag just a color. Okay, let me give it red. I don't want the background of it, just the text. Okay, so I'm just going to go in here and say h1, right? And I'm going to give it a color of red. Okay, so I am going to save this and refresh, and you realize that the h1 tag is red, so it's colored red. Now this is an element selector, and it basically selects an element in your HTML document or a tag in your HTML document and applies the property to it. Okay, so I did not say this, but this color is what we call the property, and the red is the property value. Okay, so we are going to see so many different properties in our subsequent lectures, but in this particular lecture we are going to be dealing more of the property and the property value. And where you see this curly braces start and end is called the declaration. Okay, so you have the selector, you have the declaration. In the declaration you have a property and the property value. Okay, so now, let's say I want to style my h2 tag. So I want to style just how it all began. And we realize that how it all began is an h2 tag. Okay, so let me style my h2 tag, how it all began. How it all began. I'm just going to give it a color of, okay, so color. I'm just going to give it a color blue, since I've not used excuse me. Okay, so I have given my h tag a color blue, and I'm going to save this and refresh. But oh no, you realize that I just wanted to style just how it all began blue, but here are the lectures, where is Inno-tech located, and qualities of Inno-tech are all styled blue, which is not actually what I wanted. I just wanted how it all began. Now that tells us that this particular styling is for every element that is an h2 tag. So you realize that how are the lectures at Inno-tech, h2 is an h2 tag, where is Inno-tech located is also an h2 tag. So this style basically styles every h2 tag. Since I said h2 as a selector, it styles every h2 tag with this property. Okay, so color blue. And that's why we have this. Now let's say I want to specify even more, right? I want just how it all began. I just want to specify only to that color blue. Now how do I do that? What you use is, you either use an ID or a class, but I'm actually saying now that you either use an ID or a class here. It's not actually correct, because there are cases where you're supposed to use an ID and cases where you're supposed to use class. But since we haven't actually discussed about IDs and classes, and I cannot assume that you've gone through the HTML video, so I am actually going to explain more about IDs and classes maybe in the next video. But for now, let's just say ID and classes are the same. Okay, they have the same functionality. Now how do I do that? I go into the opening tag of the h2 element, right? And I'm going to give it a class. So I just use the attribute class, right? and I'm going to give it a class. Let's say how. Okay, it's not an ideal name to use. Okay, let me use subtitle. Okay, so subtitle. So I think this is a better name. Now, um I've actually given my index.html or my h2 tag, which is how it all began. I've actually given that a class of subtitle. Now, how do I target that in CSS? How do I target that particular element in CSS or that particular style in CSS? What I simply do is I use the prefix dot, right? So I use the prefix dot and the class name. So the class name was subtitle, right? Okay, subtitle. And again, I'm going to use my declaration. So I'm just going to give it a color blue. Okay, so I think this is okay, this is fine. Now I'm going to save this again and refresh, and voila. So you see that just the particular um tag that I gave it a class of subtitle was colored blue. Now let's say again I want to style this paragraph tag, right? Again, it's just the paragraph that I want to style. I'm just going to go in and give it a class, but let's actually use the p tag. And again, this is an element selector I'm using here, and I'm just going to give it a color, let's say yellow. Okay, okay, save this, refresh, and you realize that every paragraph tag is colored yellow, but that is not what I want. So I simply go in and give it a class paragraph. Again, it's not an ideal name to give here in this case, but so the fact that I don't want to waste much time, so I'm just going to give it what comes in my head randomly. So again, to select that, I use a prefix dot since it is a class, and the class name, which as I said, paragraph. Okay, so paragraph. Okay, and if I save this and I refresh, then just that good. So just this particular paragraph is styled with this color yellow. Okay, now as I said, we have classes and we have IDs, right? So let me go in here, and instead of giving this h2 tag a class, I'm going to give it an ID, okay, of subtitle. And I'm going to open my style sheet, and now I want to target that subtitle, right? So I want to target a particular subtitle. What you use here is not a dot anymore, since it's not a class, it's an ID. So I use hash, right? So I use hash and the name of the ID, so subtitle in this case, declaration, color, and blue. Okay, so this blue is fine. Refresh this and voila. So you realize that I have actually targeted the particular text that I want, and I have styled it using the different selectors we have seen in today's video. We have seen the subtitle, we have seen the element selector, we have seen the class selector and the ID selector, and I've also seen how to test that our style sheet is indeed connected with our HTML document. Okay guys, so I hope you like the video. It has actually been really fun to embark on um, this our CSS journey with you guys. I am really happy, and I hope you uh, open your workspace, do a lot of fun activities with styling. So yeah, play around with the colors. We have not actually done a lot of properties. We have mainly focused on colors. So yeah, play around with the colors, have fun, be stylistic, and yeah, don't forget to smash that subscribe button, like this video, comment down below on your experience after the video. And I have just one question to ask, which I would like you guys to post in the comment section your answers, and I will make sure to always reply if you are correct or not, and maybe correct you if you're not. I would just like to say, okay, um, what is the difference between an ID and a class, or where do we use IDs and where do we use classes? Okay, so that is somehow like your assignment. Again, don't forget to subscribe, share the video if you liked it, and I will see you in the next video.